After Moses died, the Israelites needed a new leader, and so God chose Joshua, who was a close friend and aide of Moses. God had promised Moses the land that was now settled as Jericho. God intended to keep his promise through Joshua. A few days before the Israelites went to Jericho, Joshua sent spies to, check the place out. So Joshua and the Israelites went to Jericho, and with them the Ark of the Covenant, which stored the commandments God gave to Moses. Now the gates of Jericho were securely barred because of the Israelite spies Joshua had sent just a few days earlier. No one went out and no one came in. The Lord said to Joshua,
"March around the city once with all the armed men. Do this for 6 days. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times, then have the whole army give a loud shout. Then the wall of the city will collapse."
So Joshua ordered the army, "Advance, march around the city." But Joshua had also commanded the army, "Do not give a war cry, do not raise your voices, do not say a word until the day I tell you to shout. Then you shout." So he had the Ark of the Covenant carried around the city, circling it once. Then the army returned to camp and spent the night there. So on the 2nd day they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. They did this for 6 days. On the 7th day they got up at daybreak and marched around the city 7 times in the same manner, except on that day they circled the city 7 times. The 7th time around Joshua commanded the army, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city and all that is in it are to be devoted to the Lord with the exception of the spies and the people who hid them. But keep away from the devoted things, so you will not bring about your own destruction by taking any of them. Otherwise you will make the camp of Israel liable to destruction and bring trouble upon it. All the silver and gold and the articles of bronze and iron are sacred to the Lord and must go into his treasury." So all the men gave a loud shout and the wall collapsed, so everyone charged straight in and they took the city. They devoted the city to the Lord and destroyed with the sword every living thing in it. Men, women, young and old, cattle, sheep, and donkeys. Then they burned the whole city and everything in it. But they put the silver and gold and the articles of bronze and iron into the treasury of the Lord's house. Joshua spared only Rahab the prostitute with her family and all who belonged to her, because she hid the men Joshua had sent as spies to Jericho. At that time Joshua pronounced his solemn oath, "Cursed before the Lord is the one who undertakes to rebuild this city Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn son he will lay its foundations. At the cost of his youngest he will set up its gates." So the Lord was with Joshua, and his story spread throughout the lands. But the Israelites were unfaithful in regard to the devoted things. Some of the Israelites took some of the valuable items that should have been destroyed. So the Lord's anger burned against Israel.